Well, TGIF. Welcome, Minecrafters, to another full podcast episode. My name is Dr. Kimberly Quinn, and I tell you, I've got some lessons from the hurricane. Currently in West Palm Beach, Florida. I'm waiting for a few more hours to drive and see our daughter because it's still really windy. In fact, they said at 4 a.m. this morning, if we would have walked out of the front of the hotel, I can't imagine they'd let you. You would have been airlifted and carried up and away. So that's like totally nuts. Anyway, the hurricane has lots of really good messages with it. And the one I'd like to talk about today, which is a really good one, is the power. You know, they're obviously very, very powerful. Keep us focused in the moment and hopefully letting go of a lot of things. So here's the thing that I really was inspired by with, the last couple days of all the hurricane hype and everything. And hopefully the people on the West Coast and in the middle of Florida are okay. They had it much worse than we did for sure. But anyway, what I want to talk about is, especially with anger, because it's so easy, I think, to get seduced away from our authentic power and into this feeling of pseudo power. And anger, it can happen in other ways, but anger is definitely, I would say, right at the top for the biggest seducer away from our authentic power into the pseudo power. Because when we hang on to anger and kind of dig our claws in and just hold on, we can be seduced by it because it feels like we've got something on the person, or that we're not letting go. I got you. You did that bad thing to me. And I'm not saying that the bad thing isn't totally legit. Of course it is. Anger has a job. Anger gets a bad rap, quite honestly, because people say, "Oh, she's so angry. He's so angry." Well, yeah, it becomes toxic when it's hung on to for too long. But in reality, anger does have a job, and the job is, it says, back the heck up. You treaded upon me, even if you treaded upon me by treading upon somebody I love, right? Like, let's say you've had a best friend since kindergarten, and he's in this great relationship, or so he thinks, and he's talking about her all the time, or him all the time, whatever, and just so crazy in love, and then you find out he was cheated on after being in this relationship for 3 years or whatever, and his heart, will be broken in half. I hope you're pissed. And that happened to somebody else, or somebody treads upon your religious beliefs or your political beliefs or whatever they're treading. Anger says, back the hell up. You're in my personal bubble. You're in my space, even if that's because you treaded on the bubble of somebody I care about, right? And so that is the whole point. Anger is also very, very protective, very, very protective. So it has a job. It only becomes toxic again when we hang on to it for too long. And a lot of the time, the reason we hang on to the anger, even if the person's longer, the person who did the perpetrator, or the wrongdoer, or the person who did the big bad thing, even if they're not on this earth anymore, we can hang on to it because it just gives us a sense of having that, of being tall, bigger, and we're really not. It has like a half-life, because it actually chips away and takes away at us, and it's so heavy, and anger is obviously very attached to resentment too. I think of resentment as those big freestanding weights that are heavy, and just like carrying those around on our shoulders. And so really what we want to do is let go. And a lot of people don't like the word forgive, and that's fine. You can just say let it go. And by the way, I'm not talking about religion. You can bring that in, because work it in if you have a certain faith, or you're spiritual or whatever, work it into that for sure. But I'm talking about psychologically speaking, because really the only way to heal is to forgive other people and yourself, or let it go, whatever, And so there's some big reasons why people don't do that. Probably the biggest reason people don't forgive or don't let whatever old thing is go, even if it's, the worst possible, like somebody was molested at 5 years old or something sexually, we can still, as awful, legit, and validating as that was, it's validating that hurt thing, right? So it's still, we got to at some point own that it's ours to let go of. So focus, Kimmy. Okay, because I've just been in this hurricane stuff for a little bit. Okay, so the main reason people don't let go is because they think it gives a perpetrator, or wrongdoer, violator, whatever, hurtful person, that gives them a pass. It does not give them a pass. That's the main reason people don't let go. And it does not give them a pass. And I'll tell you another reason. Okay, that was the first one. It gives the perpetrator a pass, which it doesn't, or wrongdoer, whatever. Second one is that people think they have to be ready to forgive, like the clouds part, and there's a forgiveness fairy that dumps pixie dust on their heads, forgiveness pixie dust on their heads, and all of a sudden they wake up and they're ready. It's not how it works. It's not like, it's also, there's no forgiveness lottery, like, oh, how come she can forgive people so easily? How come he can forgive people so easily? It's not like getting the golden Wonka ticket, just like I talk about with happiness. It doesn't work like that. So we have to decide to forgive. Now, obviously, there's a timeline, and that's going to be individual. I mean, if somebody were mugged this morning, that might be too soon, right? And there's no set time, obviously, for people or the severity of what it is. And it's important, however, to realize that, after, to feel is to heal. So feel it, wrap around it. I actually think of it as kind of like catch and release fishing. I used to fish when I was a little kid. I fished for bullheads, like little mini catfish, out in the Midwest, and they were prickly. They had these like little catfishy, little sticky things, and also they had kind of little raised, like their sandpaper skin, a little like their teeth were like, they bitch and they stingy. So, then they were slimy. So I think of it as hanging on to whatever the bad thing was, the anger, the resentment, hanging on to it till you can't stand it anymore. Validate, and then let it go and close the chapter. Okay, so again, wrongdoer does not get a pass. 2, there is no forgiveness fairy sprinkling forgiveness dust on you to just like the clouds part and all of a sudden you're ready. It doesn't work like that. You have to make a conscious decision that you are ready to move forward. Okay, so now, probably the very best definition of forgiveness I've ever heard, there are a lot of them, or letting it go, whatever. It came from Claudia Black when I was at St. Mike's as an undergrad. I had just gotten there. I think it was like, maybe I was like 18. And the auditorium was packed because Claudia Black is one of the first pioneers of the Adult Children of Alcoholics movement. And little tiny thing, I'm pretty sure she's still at it. She's got to be very seasoned at this point. But I remember what she said, because it also addresses one of the other reasons, because there are 3, I mentioned the first 2, that people don't want to forgive, is they think that forgiveness has to do with forgetting. Brain doesn't work like that. You can't just hit the delete button and there it goes. I mean, anyone knows who's experienced any kind of trauma that the last thing your brain wants to do is let it go on its own. I mean, it just wants to dig in and think about it, and that's how it works. And so Claudia Black said, I love this, forgiveness has nothing, as in not a thing, to do with forgetting. It has everything to do with remembering and choosing to move forward. I love that. I'm so glad I heard that so early on in my life, because I was just becoming free when I got to St. Mike's after a very challenging childhood. Lots of us have stories, and it was very turbulent, sometimes violent, ton of shame, addiction, narcissism, mental illness, other mental illnesses. And it was when I got to St. Mike's, this wonderful community, which I'm still very much a part of, and lots of angels in my life still to this day. I got there and I felt like I was like looking around at these kids able to be kids. I'm like, oh my God, they're able to just be light and free and happy. And then along came Claudia Black early on. What a blessing she was too, to really give me permission. Because I needed it back then. You don't need it as much when you're, more of a seasoned grown-up. But when you're younger, it's like, wow, you mean I can let it go and move forward? I don't have to stay in those toxic relationships. I don't have to repair them. Because that forgetting thing, I'm not going to forget it. We remember. But what happens is when we get on the track of letting go, is all the bad stuff, it ends up kind of like a pile of skeleton bones in the corner, in a I don't want to say closet, because that insinuates secrets and stuff. Pile of bones in the corner, but it doesn't have the meat on them anymore. So when we forgive or let go, the bad thing, you're not going to shake, the memory, what happened, right? It's not going to change, what happened, but it has no more power over you. And I've felt this firsthand, and let me tell you, when you really finally have this cathartic experience, which is Greek for release, right? This authentic release, wow. I mean, you can't even put it to words how good it feels to really just, like helium balloons, just letting it all go. And you can also make a conscious choice if you're sexually abused as a child, which I was, to not revisit it. Doesn't mean you need to to go there and think about it, don't. It's over. It's done. Shift away from that, and take some control over your thoughts. This is though the big step towards healing is acknowledging that this is all mine to own now, no matter who did what, and it being molested as a child is like in the severe end, and there's all the other stuff along the way. But not owning, like, you didn't do that to yourself, they did it, but we're owning that it's ours to take care of now as an adult. It's ours to take care of now. And to make the conscious choice to let it go. And also, after the three things that keep people from, forgiving, acknowledge those and hopefully trudge forward, like Claudia Black suggests, to move forward. We have the permission, we do not need to repair a relationship. Think about this. If somebody who did this said thing, right? If they're no longer on this earth, you can't repair the relationship either. And sometimes people die, and then people are still hanging on to the anger. That person's not even here anymore, and they're allowing those old memories, which bring with them the attached emotions. They allow that in their heads, and that's on us. If we're allowing it, we got to own that, because the person's not even here anymore. Okay, sometimes a person's in jail, which is similar, not exactly the same, but similar. And also, waiting for an apology is also ridiculous and a big blocker to forgiveness. A big blocker to forgiveness, because that puts our emotional freedom, right, from the anger, the shame, and resentment, and everything else, for all the negative emotions, right? That means that if we're putting our, happiness and emotional freedom out here attached to an outcome, then we need that person to do said thing and behave said way for us to be happy. We don't want to live like that anyway. We want to reel that stuff in and bring it right in the living room. So, to reel it in, with my inspiration here, I've been way inspired by this hurricane, I have to tell you, and also very grateful. I'm in West Palm Beach and not on the western coast or in the middle, because those folks just have, I'm sure, I haven't watched the news today at all. I'm sure they have a lot of pickup to do. But anyway, I was originally inspired for this talk, this TGIF full podcast episode, because of the power that a hurricane has. And yesterday, I was in the preliminary winds of it, which were strong enough, just strong enough, and you can just feel the power of what's coming on a really little level, and even the little level was pretty huge, and keeping us focused. And so that is where I want to go with this, because anger can really seduce us into that feeling of pseudo power, when in reality it's chiseling away and taking us away from our authentic power. Because when we step back into our place, which means the outcomes are not attached. We're not attached to outcomes out here. We win from within. We reel that stuff in. We step back into our power, our authentic power. We don't have any need for any of that anymore. And somebody who's in their place of authentic power, I love watching authentic folks, and they just walk into the room. They don't even have to open their mouths. They're in their power place. They've got that charisma. They've got it all going on, and they just own the room without saying a word. And it's not in an arrogant way. It's in an authentic way. So people just gravitate towards them because they're emotionally free, which means that we are emotionally available, and we're generally very, very happy, and we generally don't need approval or anything like that, because we're in our authentic power place. And so that is what I wanted to talk about today, inspired by Hurricane Milton, who thankfully has gone back out to sea. And that's it. Have a fantastic day.